To say that the Chris Eubank Jr. vs. Conor Benn fight will be the most incredible second-generation showdown of all time would be an understatement. A fierce battle between the current WBA Continental Welterweight Champion and the previous IBO World Super Middleweight Champion is scheduled on Saturday, October 8th, 2022 at the O2 Arena in London. Will Chris Eubank Jr. defeat Conor Benn like his father defeated Nigel Benn in their first bout? How will their fighting styles play into this highly anticipated clash? Let's find out. Background. Boxing fans worldwide have been on the edge of their seats since it was announced that Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn will collide in a colossal fight at the O2 on the 8th of October. It's definitely an unmissable event for fight fans around the world because it promises fresh blood, rich history, and famed rivalry. Need we say more? The 12-round welterweight clash will be held after 3 long decades since their fathers clashed in a second showdown at Old Trafford. The heated friction between Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn is among the best rivalries in British boxing history. And now, it seems that their sons are seeking to continue it. So yeah, it promises to be the most electrifying British boxing contest in decades. After all, the prodigal sons of 2 of the sport's most famous names battle it out in a memorable second-generation showdown. Will the 2 fighters follow in the footsteps of their legendary fathers? Will Chris Next-Gen Eubank Jr. defeat Conor the Destroyer Benn, like Chris Eubank defeated Nigel Benn in their first match? Or will it be a draw like their father's second fight? We'll find out soon enough. What's been said about this fight? Considering that this is literally the boxing match of the century, there has been a lot of stuff going around regarding the legacy and drama it will bring into the arena. So what does Ben have to say about his upcoming bout with his formidable nemesis? Here's what he stated at the press conference. Quote, "This fight is for the legacy and was an opportunity I felt I couldn't pass up. My team and I had other options on the table, as I'm currently ranked top 5 with all governing bodies at welterweight, and no doubt I'm looking for a world championship fight very soon. But this fight is embedded with so much history, and I know it's one the public really wants to see." He also added, quote, "To me, this fight is personal. It's more than titles and rankings. This is unfinished business between our families. All I know is that from my side, this will be an all-out war, last man standing kind of fight. Neither will give up until the last bell rings." But Ben isn't the only one who feels vehemently about his match against Eubank Jr. The latter also had plenty to say. Quote, "I grew up watching legendary battles and always wanting to emulate that and find my own arch-nemesis. Could this now be Conor Benn? We will find out." Regarding his opponent, Eubank Jr. responded that, quote, "He has walked the same path as I have. I know his struggle, living in the shadow of a legend and trying to break out of that shadow and make his own name. If he can beat me, his name will be made, and he will never walk in his father's shadow again." Anyway, during the Eubank Jr. vs. Benn press conference, both expressed their confidence in their skills and approach for their catchweight encounter. They fielded many questions from promoters Eddie Hearn and Culla Sauerland. For example, one concern that was raised was the matter of Eubank Jr.'s weight, and the Brighton man promptly addressed the fact that the limit of 157 pounds might just hinder him, yet he is optimistic about his chances. He stated, quote, "If I'm at 100%, then it's public execution. I'll be 60% and that'll be enough. Nothing like this has ever happened in the history of the sport. 2 legends who inspired a nation, become superstars, and etch their names into British history. 30 years later, their son, who've both made themselves in boxing, are going to go to war for a 3rd time." Now that we have explored the rich history behind this match and the sentiments revolving around it, let's take a look at the fighters themselves. Chris Eubank Jr. Love him or hate him, Eubank Jr. is definitely going places in boxing. With a 5-fight winning streak since losing to George Groves in 2018, the son of British boxing legend Chris Eubank has the mass appeal to have a very successful, lucrative career in the arena for many years to come. In fact, he's got the Eubank name, an all-action style, and the dramatic flamboyance of his popular father, so it's no wonder he's made a name for himself. Out of 24 total fights, Eubank Jr. has won 23 wins by knockout alone. Now, let's take a look at his fighting style. Fighting style. Clearly, Eubank Jr. has a height and reach advantage over Ben. Standing at 5'11" with an impressive reach of 72.4 inches, he can easily dominate his shorter opponent. His orthodox fighting style has helped him defeat many of his foes in the ring. Eubank Jr. is an indomitable fighting machine in the ring, with dazzling combos and insane stamina to help in every single round. Strengths. Number 1. Speed. As one of the fastest super middleweights around right now, Eubank is able to quickly overwhelm opponents since his high-octane, swarming, volume punching is lightning fast. Number 2. Stamina. Eubank is also blessed with high stamina and athleticism. With a seemingly big 12-round engine to keep him going, he definitely has a great plus point in this match. Number 3. Risk taker. Although it may be considered a weakness in some contexts, Eubank's tendency to surprise his opponents with brazen, unpredictable assaults makes him an edgy and dangerous foe inside the ring. That's something Ben will need to watch out for. Weaknesses. Number 1. Shoddy footwork. Eubank has fast hands and brilliant combos in his arsenal, but his footwork leaves much to be desired. His feet seem plodding, especially against exceptionally mobile boxers such as conqueror Billy Joe Saunders. Number 2. Throwing shots far and wide. Although he has a great work rate and decent power, Eubank has a tendency to be kind of messy. Sometimes he throws his shots too wide and far off the mark. More often than he'd like, his shots miss the intended target. Conor Benn. Conor Benn is quickly becoming one of the hottest names in British boxing, and not just because of his legendary father. The younger Ben also demolished several opponents, such as opponents including Samuel Vargas, Chris Algieri, and Chris Van Heerden, via TKO after winning the WBA Continental Welterweight title in 2018. And if he manages to win this upcoming match against Eubank Jr., his chances of winning the world title will definitely increase tenfold. So what about Conor Benn's fighting style? Let's take a look. Fighting style. Ben is also an orthodox fighter like Eubank Jr., but that's where the similarities between them end. Ben stands at a slightly disadvantaged height of 5'8" and a shorter reach of 68.1 inches. But he can sure pack a mean punch. Out of 21 fights, he has managed 14 wins by knockout alone, so it's a pretty good track record for someone with comparatively less experience in the boxing business. Strengths. Number 1. Good combos. Over the years, Ben has become an increasingly dangerous puncher, and his combos are brilliant. He knows how to mix up the shots and take his enemies by surprise. As a come-forward fighter who can pack a mean punch, his combos will definitely increase his chances of besting Eubank Jr. Number 2. Powerful punches. His strongest point is his hitting strength. Since he's an aggressive boxer-brawler with heavy hands, it's basically the Britain man's style to really let his hands go. And this time, he won't wait for too long before doing so because he's looking to make a statement. Weaknesses. Number 1. Defense. Ben will have to strengthen his defense if he wishes to beat a more experienced Eubank Jr., because from what we've seen in his previous fights, he really needs to improve his defense, so one punch to the chin doesn't knock him out in a flat second. Number 2. Footwork. Another fatal flaw is Ben's slow footwork, which often puts him in close range of a devastating hit from his opponents. He isn't nimble on his feet, and this lack of agility may prove to be his downfall. Predictions. Only time will tell who reigns victorious in this face-off, but we can definitely make some strong predictions about it. According to Eddie Hearn, Conor Benn may be the one who will win this 32-year-old family grudge match. While talking on the DAZN boxing show, Hearn stated, quote, "I know people write Conor Benn off, but I really think he'll win the fight. This fight will go down as one of the biggest fights in British boxing history, and one of the biggest fights I've ever promoted. This fight and its magnitude, it was just too big to say no." It's predicted that Benn is willing to lift his weight to 157 pounds to face Eubank Jr. While the latter may use his advantage of 4.5 reach to irritate Benn and counter him, Benn is going to be pretty dangerous in the first rounds due to his hitting strength. The guy is a punching machine and can pack a solid hit to the opponent's jaw. So Eubank is gonna need all his composure and skill during this particular fight. Now, after the 6th round, it's expected that the situation will flip to Eubank's advantage. After all, Eubank Jr. has more experience, stamina, and reach on his side. Overall, they're both slightly outmatched. So, what are the current betting odds? Well, according to Betting Insider Journal, most people are heavily favoring Chris Eubank Jr. He is rated as a -210 favorite in this fight, which isn't a surprise, considering he is far more experienced and physically larger than Benn. So, Conor Benn will open as a -160 betting underdog, with an implied win probability of 38.4%. All in all, it's gonna be a wild ride that will keep fans biting their nails throughout. Click on one of the 2 videos on the screen right now.